Let me ask you something, and I want you to be honest with yourself. Not with me, with yourself. When was the last time you checked your bank account and actually felt good about what you saw? If you're pausing right now, or if your stomach just did a little flip, this video is for you. Millions of people, every single month, go through the same exhausting cycle. Money comes in, money goes out. You pay the rent, you cover the bills, you fill up the gas tank, and by the time you're done, there's almost nothing left. Maybe a little, maybe nothing. And then you sit there waiting for the next paycheck to arrive so you can do it all over again. That's the paycheck to paycheck trap. And here's what nobody tells you. It doesn't matter how much money you make. This trap catches people earning $20,000 a year and people earning $200,000. It's not just a low-income problem. It's a financial behavior problem. And that means it can be fixed. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to break this cycle. Not with vague advice like spend less, save more. That helps nobody. I'm talking real, specific, step-by-step strategies that actually work. Things you can start doing this week. So stick around, because by the end of this video, you're going to have a completely different picture of your finances and a real plan to change them. Before we talk about solutions, let's talk about why this is happening. Because if you don't understand the root cause, you'll keep trying to fix the wrong things. Here's the hard truth. Most people who live paycheck to paycheck are not in that situation because they're lazy or irresponsible. They're there because nobody ever taught them how money actually works. Think about it. You spent years in school learning algebra, history, and grammar, but how many classes did you take on budgeting, on compound interest, on how to build an emergency fund or negotiate a salary? For most of us, zero. So we entered adult life completely unprepared for the financial decisions we'd have to make every single day. And we learned from watching the people around us who were also unprepared. Now, combine that with something called lifestyle inflation. This is what happens when your income goes up and your spending goes up right along with it. You get a raise, so you get a nicer apartment. You get a promotion, so you upgrade your car. Your income grows, but so do your expenses. And you stay stuck in the same cycle, just at a higher level. There's also something called the keeping up mentality. Social media makes this worse than ever. You're constantly seeing highlight reels, vacations, new clothes, fancy dinners, renovated homes. And whether you realize it or not, it creates pressure, a psychological pull towards spending that has nothing to do with your actual needs or values. And then there are unexpected expenses. The car breaks down, someone gets sick, the water heater gives out, life happens. And if you don't have a cushion, one single unexpected expense can completely derail your finances for weeks or months. So, that's the foundation we're working with. Not enough financial education, lifestyle creep, social pressure, no safety net. These are the real reasons people get stuck, and these are exactly the things we're going to address. All right, let's get into the real work. Step 1. And this one is non-negotiable. You need to know with complete clarity where every single dollar of your money is going every month. This sounds obvious, but most people have no idea. They have a vague sense that they spend too much on food or probably waste money on subscriptions, but they don't know the actual numbers. And here's why this matters. You cannot fix a problem you haven't fully seen. So here's what I want you to do. Grab your last 2 or 3 months of bank statements and credit card statements. Go through every single transaction and put each one into a category. Your categories might look something like this. Housing, which covers rent or mortgage and utilities. Transportation, your car payment, insurance, gas and any ride shares. Food, and separate this into groceries and eating out because that distinction is important. Entertainment and subscriptions, personal care, clothing, debt payments, and then a catch-all for everything else. Once you've done this for 2 or 3 months, you'll start to see patterns, and I guarantee you'll find at least one thing that surprises you. Maybe you're spending $400 a month on food delivery without realizing it. Maybe you have 7 streaming subscriptions running at the same time. Maybe small purchases, coffee here, a snack there, an app download, are adding up to a couple $100s a month that you could barely account for. This exercise alone changes people, because once you see it in black and white, it stops being abstract. It becomes real, and real things can be changed. There are great apps that can help you do this automatically. Things like Mint, NYAB, which stands for You Need a Budget, or even just a simple spreadsheet. Use whatever works for you. The tool doesn't matter. The clarity does. Now that you know where your money is going, it's time to decide where you want it to go. That's what a budget is. It's not a punishment. It's a plan. I know a lot of people hear the word budget and immediately feel resistance. It sounds restrictive. It sounds like giving things up. But here's a different way to think about it. A budget is simply you telling your money what to do, instead of wondering where it went. Let me introduce you to one of the most practical and beginner-friendly budgeting frameworks out there. It's called the 50-30-20 rule. Here's how it works. 50% of your take-home income goes toward needs. These are the things you genuinely cannot live without: housing, utilities, groceries, transportation to work, minimum debt payments, and health insurance. 30% goes toward wants. This is the stuff that makes life enjoyable: dining out, entertainment, hobbies, travel, clothes that are beyond the basics. And 20% goes toward your financial future. This includes savings, investing, and paying down debt beyond the minimum. Now, will your numbers land perfectly in those percentages right away? Probably not, and that's okay. This is a framework, not a rigid rule. Use it as a starting point and adjust based on your situation. For example, if you live in a high cost of living city, your housing alone might take up 40% of your income. That's okay. You just need to cut back in the wants category to compensate. One important note: when I say take-home income, I mean after taxes and any pre-tax deductions like a 401k contribution. Work with the money that actually hits your bank account. Now, here's a powerful technique that works beautifully alongside a budget. It's called the zero-based budget. At the end of every month, you plan out the next month, and you assign every single dollar a job. Income minus all planned expenses, savings, and investments equals zero. Not because you've spent everything, because every dollar has a specific purpose. This approach is incredibly effective because it eliminates the vague middle ground where money tends to disappear. Okay, you've tracked your spending, you've got a budget, now it's time to actually reduce what's going out. And I want to show you how to do this in a way that's strategic, not painful. First, let's talk about the difference between fixed expenses and variable expenses. Fixed expenses stay the same every month: rent, car payment, insurance premiums. Variable expenses change: groceries, entertainment, utilities, dining out. Variable expenses are where most people have the most room to move, and that's where we'll focus. Start with the low-hanging fruit. Go through your subscriptions. Right now, pull up your bank statement and count how many recurring charges you have. I'll wait. Most people are shocked when they actually count. Cancel anything you haven't used in the last 30 days. Seriously, just cancel it. You can always resubscribe later. Next, look at your food spending. This is typically one of the biggest variable expenses for most households, and one of the most flexible. A few changes here can make a massive difference. Start meal planning once a week. Shop with a grocery list and stick to it. Batch cook on Sundays so you're not tempted to order delivery when you're tired on Wednesday night. I'm not saying never eat out. I'm saying make it intentional. When you eat out on purpose, as a treat you've planned for, it feels good. When you eat out because you didn't prepare, it feels like a failure, and it costs 3 times as much. Now, let's talk about fixed expenses, because there's more room here than most people think. Call your insurance company and ask if there are any discounts you qualify for. Many people have never done this and are leaving money on the table every single month. Call your internet provider and negotiate your rate. Tell them you're considering switching. You'd be surprised how often they offer you a better deal rather than lose you as a customer. If you have high-interest credit card debt, call the card company and ask for a lower interest rate. Again, just ask. The worst they can say is no. And finally, and this one's big, really examine your housing and transportation costs. These 2 categories alone make up the majority of most people's budgets. If you're spending more than 30% of your income on rent, it may be worth exploring whether moving to a less expensive area, getting a roommate, or downsizing is a viable option for you right now. I know that's not always easy to hear, but sometimes a temporary sacrifice in comfort creates a permanent improvement in financial stability. This next step is, in my opinion, the single most powerful thing you can do to stop living paycheck to paycheck. And it's the thing most people skip or delay and then wonder why they keep ending up back at square one. You need an emergency fund. An emergency fund is money that sits in a savings account, untouched, only to be used when a true emergency happens. Not a sale at the mall, not a trip you really want to take, an actual emergency. A job loss, a medical situation, a major car repair, a broken appliance. Here's why this is so critical. Right now, most people have zero financial buffer. So when something goes wrong, and at some point something always goes wrong, they have two options: go into debt or completely fall apart. An emergency fund breaks that cycle. When you have 3 months of expenses saved up, a flat tire doesn't ruin your week. An unexpected medical bill doesn't torpedo your budget. You handle it. You move on. Now, the traditional advice is to save 3 to 6 months of living expenses. And yes, that's the ultimate goal. But if that number feels overwhelming right now, let's start smaller. Your first goal is $1,000. That's it. $1,000 in a dedicated savings account that you don't touch. How do you get there? You take the money you freed up by cutting expenses, from canceled subscriptions, from eating out less, from negotiating your bills, and you automatically transfer it to that savings account the moment your paycheck hits, before you pay anything else. This is called paying yourself first, and it's a complete mindset shift from what most people do. Most people pay all their bills, spend on whatever they want, and then try to save whatever's left. The problem is, there's usually nothing left. When you pay yourself first, when the savings transfer happens automatically, the moment money comes in, saving becomes non-negotiable. It happens before you have a chance to spend that money on something else. Start with whatever you can, $50 a paycheck, $100 a month. Don't wait until you think you have enough to save. Start now with what you have. The habit is more important than the amount in the beginning. If you have debt, credit cards, personal loans, car loans, student loans, this is likely one of the biggest things keeping you in the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Because debt doesn't just take your money, it takes your future money too, in the form of interest. So we need to talk about how to attack it. There are two main strategies for paying off debt, and both of them work. The best one is the one you'll actually stick to. The first is called the debt avalanche. With this method, you list all your debts from highest interest rate to lowest. You pay the minimum on everything, and then you throw any extra money at the debt with the highest interest rate first. Once that's paid off, you roll that payment into the next highest interest rate debt, and so on. Mathematically, this is the most efficient method. You'll pay less total interest over time. The second method is called the debt snowball. Here, you list your debts from smallest balance to largest. You pay the minimum on everything, but put extra money toward the smallest debt first. When you wipe that one out, you take that payment and add it to what you were paying on the next smallest debt. This method is incredibly motivating. Paying off that first small debt fast gives you a win, and wins build momentum. Momentum is what keeps people going when things get tough. Pick the method that works for your personality and your situation. High interest debt, like credit cards, is especially urgent because interest rates can be anywhere from 18 to 29%. That means your debt is growing faster than almost any investment can grow. While you're paying down debt, one thing is crucial: stop adding to it. Cut up the credit cards if you have to. Put them in a drawer. Freeze them in a block of ice. Literally, people do this. The goal is to stop the bleeding while you're treating the wound. One more powerful tool: if you have multiple high-interest debts, look into whether you qualify for a debt consolidation loan at a lower interest rate. This can simplify your payments and reduce the total interest you're paying. Just make sure you read the terms carefully and don't use it as an opportunity to rack up more debt. Here's something important I want you to understand. Cutting expenses can only take you so far. At some point, you hit a floor. You can't cut your rent to zero. You can't stop eating. There are limits. That's why, alongside managing your expenses, you need to think about increasing your income. And today, there are more opportunities to do that than at any point in history. Let's start with the most straightforward option, asking for a raise at your current job. I know this feels uncomfortable for a lot of people, but here's the thing. If you've been performing well and you haven't asked for a raise in a year or two, there's a solid chance you're being underpaid relative to your value. Do your research. Find out what people in similar roles are earning in your area. Then have the conversation. Come prepared with specific examples of the value you've added. The worst outcome is you don't get it right now, but you've started a conversation and you've planted a seed. Next, look at whether there are skills you could develop that would make you more valuable, either at your current employer or in the job market overall. This might mean an online certification, a new technical skill, or even completing a degree. Think of it as an investment in your most important asset, yourself. Now let's talk about side income. A side hustle doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. It just needs to be consistent. Think about what skills or resources you already have. Can you drive? Delivery apps and ride-sharing are always hiring. Can you write, design, code, or do data entry? Freelance platforms like Upwork and Fiverr connect you with clients who need exactly those skills. Do you have a car, tools, or extra space? Those can all generate income. Even just a few $100s extra a month changes everything. That could be your emergency fund getting built 3 times faster. That could be the extra debt payment that gets you out of credit card debt 6 months sooner. That could be the difference between staying stuck and finally getting ahead. And here's a rule I want you to lock in from the start. Any extra income you make, every dollar from a side hustle, every tax refund, every work bonus, goes straight to your financial goals. Not to lifestyle upgrades, not to a vacation, straight to your savings or your debt, at least until you've built your foundation. Everything we've talked about so far, the tracking, the budgeting, the emergency fund, the debt payoff, those are all tactics. And tactics are important, but they won't work long-term without the right mindset underneath them. So let's talk about how successful people think about money. First, they delay gratification. This doesn't mean never enjoying life. It means understanding that every dollar you spend today is a dollar you can't deploy for your future. And more importantly, it means recognizing that many of the things you think you need right now, the new phone, the upgraded car, the designer item, won't actually make you happier in the long run. There's a difference between things that bring temporary pleasure and things that bring lasting satisfaction. Financial security brings lasting satisfaction. Impulse purchases bring temporary pleasure. Learn to distinguish between the two before you spend. Second, successful people separate their worth from their wealth. This is huge. A lot of overspending comes from a place of insecurity. We spend to signal success, to fit in, to feel good enough. But real confidence doesn't come from what you own. It comes from who you are and what you're building. Third, and this one is transformative, they think in terms of opportunity cost. Every time you spend money on one thing, you're choosing not to spend it on something else. $100 on dining out is also $100 that isn't going into savings. A car payment of $500 a month is also $500 that isn't building your net worth. This isn't about guilt, it's about awareness. When you feel the pull to buy something, pause and ask, what else could this money do for me? Sometimes the answer is nothing. This purchase is worth it and aligns with my values, and that's perfectly fine. But sometimes the answer changes your decision. Fourth, be patient with yourself. Breaking the paycheck to paycheck cycle is not a weekend project. It takes months, sometimes years. There will be setbacks. An unexpected expense will wipe out your savings progress. A month will go off the rails. That is normal. What matters is that you get back on track every single time. Progress, not perfection. That's the mantra. I want to take a moment and talk about what you're actually working toward. Because when things get hard, and they will get hard, you need to remember why this matters. Imagine a version of your life where your paycheck arrives, and instead of immediately feeling stressed, you feel calm because you know your bills are covered, your emergency fund is full, You're making progress on your goals. Imagine what it feels like to have 3 months of expenses sitting in a savings account, knowing that if you lost your job tomorrow, you'd be okay, knowing that if your car broke down, you could handle it. That's not just financial security, that's freedom. Imagine paying off your last credit card, logging in to see a zero balance where there used to be thousands of dollars in debt. That moment is real for people. I've seen it change lives. Imagine investing consistently, month after month, watching your money grow not just from what you're putting in, but from the returns compounding on top of it. Watching your future self get more secure with every passing year. This is not a fantasy. This is arithmetic. These things happen for regular people, people who don't have a high income, who don't have wealthy parents, who didn't start early. They happen because someone got honest about their situation, made a plan, and stuck with it. You can be that person. You can absolutely be that person. All right, let's bring this all together. Here is your action plan for this week. 5 things. Pick at least 2 and do them before the weekend. Action 1. Track your spending. Pull up your last 2 months of statements and categorize every expense. Just do it, even if it's uncomfortable to see. Action 2. Set up a budget. Use the 50-30-20 framework as a starting point. Adjust from there based on your real numbers. If you want a tool, YNAB or a simple spreadsheet will get you started. Action 3. Open a separate savings account for your emergency fund if you don't already have one. Name it Emergency Fund so you know exactly what it's for. Set up an automatic transfer even if it's just $50 a paycheck. Start the habit. Action 4. Cancel at least one subscription you're not actively using. Do it right now, today. It's a small win, but it signals to your brain that change is happening. Action 5. Write down your number 1 financial goal. Not a vague goal like save more money, a specific goal with a specific number and a timeline. For example, I will save $1,000 in my emergency fund within the next 5 months. Put this somewhere you'll see it every day, on your phone wallpaper, on a sticky note on your mirror. Your goals need to stay visible. That's your week 1 plan. 5 steps. None of them require special skills or a large income. They just require a decision. Living paycheck to paycheck feels like being stuck on a treadmill. You're working hard, you're exhausted, but you're not getting anywhere. And at some point, you start to wonder if this is just how it is, if this is just your life. It isn't. You were never taught how to manage money. Nobody gave you a roadmap. That is not a moral failure. That is a knowledge gap. And knowledge gaps can be filled. What separates people who break this cycle from people who stay stuck is not luck, and it's not a high salary. It's clarity, commitment, and consistency. Knowing where your money is going, deciding where it should go, and doing that month after month, even when it's hard. You've watched this entire video. You've already done something that most people won't do. You've taken this seriously. That matters. So go take that first step. Track your spending, build that budget, open that savings account, and come back next week because we're going to talk about exactly how to start investing once you've built your foundation. Because the goal isn't just to stop living paycheck to paycheck. The goal is to build real, lasting wealth. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself and take care of your money.